Good evening. You are tuning in to AWANI Tonight with me, Farhana Sheikh. 11,000 early voters go to the polls tomorrow. And taking a closer look at education, how will artificial intelligence fit into the future of teaching and learning? That's coming up. Ahead of the Malacca state election, a total of 11,557 early voters will cast their votes at 31 polling centres starting 8 a.m. tomorrow. Election Commission Secretary Dato' Ikmaluddin Ishaq said the early voting process will be implemented in compliance with the COVID-19 prevention guidelines. He said that early voters comprise 9,217 military personnel and their spouses, as well as 2,340 police personnel. Ikmaluddin added that agents of contesting candidates will also be observing the early voting process, which will be streamed live on the EC's Facebook page. He said the ballot boxes for the early voting will be kept at police lockups and the vote counting process will start at 4 p.m. on polling day on November 20th. High voter turnout in GE14 delivered victory for PH, but will political fatigue and frustration sap enthusiasm in the upcoming Malacca polls? Tonight on Consider This, Syarat Kutan explore this and other evolving political dynamics with the incumbent Air Keroh Adun, Kurt Chi Yi. A new law on online gambling needs to be formulated to enable the activity to be monitored and curbed more effectively. Speaking at Dewan Rakyat, Deputy Communications and Multimedia Minister Datuk Zahidi Zainul Abidin said a proposal is in the works to draft laws to license online gambling. He said present laws were inadequate to deal with online gambling, particularly those conducted by operators abroad. He explained that licensing online gambling would not only allow them to regulate the industry, but also rake in taxes from transactions made similar to how physical casinos here are taxed. Zahidi's statement comes on the heels of the Kedah State Government's decision to ban all forms of gambling within the state. Menteri Besar Datuk Seri Muhammad Sanusi Muhammad Noor said Kedah will no longer approve gambling licenses to any gambling premises in the state to ensure it will be free from such activities in the future. The High Court today dismissed the government's bid to temporarily suspend a court ruling that recognises Malaysian mothers have the right to confer citizenship to their overseas-born children. Judge Akhtar Tahir dismissed the government's stay application this morning, pending disposal of a related appeal at the Court of Appeal. In his ruling, Judge Dato' Akhtar Tahir said the government's position was contradictory, as their argument that a constitutional amendment must first be approved by the Conference of Rulers presupposed that an amendment was necessary. Judge Akhtar, in a landmark decision on September 9th, ruled that children born overseas to Malaysian mothers are eligible to gain citizenship. Initially, such rights were accorded to Malaysian fathers only. Following that, the government has appealed against the court's decision and also filed the stay application. On December 18, 2020, 6 Malaysian women and family support group Family Frontiers had filed a legal suit against the decades-old law they called discriminatory. There are no plans to introduce motorcycle e-hailing services in Malaysia. Deputy Transport Minister Henry Sam Agong said this is because road fatalities among motorcyclists are still high. Citing statistics from the police released in 2019, 64% of the total 6,100 road fatalities that year involved motorcyclists. Henry was replying to a question from Julau MP Larry Singh in the Dewan Rakyat, who asked about the progress of a decision made in 2019 by previous Pakatan Harapan government who had given conditional authorization to bike-hailing services. He questioned why other countries like Thailand and Indonesia can do it but not Malaysia. Muar MP said Sadiq was also dissatisfied with Henry's response to the issue.
Apabila Kabinet meluluskan, Kabinet telah pun meletakkan tempoh 6 bulan untuk menilai selepas e-hailing motosikal dibenarkan, adakah ada penambahan khusus daripada segi kemalangan dalam sektor e-hailing motosikal ini. Kalau hanya nak ikut data yang telah pun wujud pada tahun-tahun yang agak lepas, ia tidak sektor spesifik. Khususnya apabila telah pun ada syarikat-syarikat tempatan seperti Degorat dan yang lain yang telah pun beroperasi kerana keputusan Kabinet tersebut, tetapi pada hari ini buat pertama kali Kita mendengar kerajaan telah pun menarik semula perkara ini.
Henry said that the ministry would continue to study the issue before deciding on the matter again. With the rapid pace of technology, it is only a matter of time before teaching and learning will incorporate artificial intelligence in the future. Educationist Dr. Augustus Sinakos from International Hellenic University in Greece says that while the pandemic has accelerated digital adoption in education, Malaysia needs to embrace new technologies at a faster rate.
One thing that really will be critical in the near future is the evolving of technology and the inclusion of artificial intelligence as part of this technology. Because accessing technology will continue, and the involvement of the technology will become more and more in the educational setting. And the issue is how we can address all this variety of demands and the variety of learners. And the only way to happen this is to include, let's say, AI-enabled assistants through the technology, so we can personalize context and needs per student or per group of students, and having teachers acting as mentors, as coaches. So we can upgrade the role of teachers to be mentors and use the benefits of technology in order to, let's say, personalize the training according to the students' needs.
This would not be cheap, but Sinakos reiterated the importance for governments to prioritize efforts to continuously improve the education system. After all, he believes education shapes the future of a country.
I think that most of the governments should be aware that they should pay more attention on the infrastructure required for a better education, and they should pay more attention to educators themselves, because they are a very sensitive profession, because we are working with the future of each country. And this is something that most of the politicians do not realize. Teachers are working and interacting with the future of each country.
Therefore, he urges for more investments into improving broadband accessibility if the government is serious about putting digital at the heart of education.
It's quite complex and difficult to assume that everybody has access to the technology, or that concerns students as individuals, okay, because some students may have access to a laptop, a nice screen, some others may have access to a portable device like a tablet, but some of them, they didn't have any access either to a mobile or to any kind of device. But there is another gap here, and we are talking about broadband infrastructures, because some of the students didn't have the money or the infrastructure to go over a broadband network. And if they did have this opportunity, I think the whole situation become much more complex, because our homes are not designed to act as offices.
We'll take a short break. Stay with us.
Nikmati penjimatan 50% dengan penyelesaian perniagaan Unify. Dengan Microsoft 365, kolaborasi dengan pelanggan, kongsi hasil kerja terbaik dan urus semua keperluan perniagaan anda. Layari unify.com.my/SME Grant hari ini.
Anda dah bosan duduk di rumah? Jom sertai kursus latihan atas talian Cert Academy secara percuma. Manfaatkan ilmu ini demi orang yang tersayang. Imbas kod QR dan daftar sekarang.
Take 5 ke arah kesejahteraan mental dan fizikal. Kekal berhubung, eratkan rangkaian sosial yang sihat. Aktifkan diri, tingkatkan kecergasan diri. Syukur, hargai nikmat kehidupan. Teroka minat, tonjolkan bakat. Beri, kebahagiaan dikongsi bersama. Amalkan Take 5, Agenda Nasional Malaysia Sihat, Sihat sepanjang hayat.
To run a growing business is to be on a journey. And along the ride, you'll have many questions, challenges, and a few surprises. But wherever you are on your journey, your Dell Technologies advisor is here for you with the right tech solutions, so you can stop at nothing for your customers.
Welcome back. China is battling its biggest COVID-19 outbreak caused by the highly transmissible Delta variant. Some areas are now restricting entry by people from the northeastern city of Dalian, where infections have grown faster than elsewhere in the country in the past week. Nearly 1,300 locally transmitted symptomatic infections were reported in China between October 17th and November 14th. This marks China's most widespread Delta outbreak, which has affected 21 provinces and regions. It is smaller than many outbreaks in other countries, but authorities in China are anxious to block the transmission under the government's zero-tolerance policy. In Dalian, however, authorities are still battling the outbreak. An average of about 24 new local cases were detected a day since November 4th, more than any other Chinese cities. People arriving at neighbouring cities from Dalian had to be quarantined at centralised facilities for 14 days before they can move freely. In a drastic move to curb COVID-19, Austria is placing about 2 million people who have not been fully vaccinated against COVID-19 under lockdown as the country faces a surge in cases. Unvaccinated people aged 12 years and older will only be permitted to leave home for limited reasons like working or buying food. Police officers will be carrying out spot checks to ensure the rules are adhered to. The measures introduced on Monday will initially last for 10 days. Chancellor Alexander Schallenberg said the government is not taking the step lightly, but it is unfortunately a necessary step. In September, the government said unvaccinated Austrians will face a stay-at-home order once 30% of ICU beds are occupied by COVID-19 patients. As it is, unvaccinated people are already excluded from entertainment venues, restaurants, hairdressers, and other parts of public life in Austria. About 65% of the country's population is fully vaccinated, one of the lowest rates in Western Europe. Overall, Europe has again become the region most seriously affected by the pandemic, and several countries are introducing restrictions and warning of rising cases. UK counter-terrorism officers arrested 3 men after a vehicle exploded outside a hospital in the northern English city of Liverpool on Sunday. The blast killed 1 person and wounded another. Police said the 3 men, aged 29, 26 and 21, were detained in the Kensington area of the city and arrested under the Terrorism Act. On Sunday, a taxi carrying 1 passenger pulled up at the Liverpool Women's Hospital shortly before the explosion occurred. The passenger was declared dead at the scene and was yet to be formally identified, while the driver was injured and is reportedly in a stable condition. Counter-terrorism officers said they were continuing to keep an open mind about the cause of the explosion and were working with the local police on the case. A 9-year-old boy died after being trampled during a crowd surge at the Astro World Festival in Houston, Texas last week. He succumbed to brain injuries and organ trauma after had been placed in a medically induced coma since November 5th. Ezra Blunt is the youngest of 10 concert goers to have been killed after a panic broke out during rapper Travis Scott's headline show. Hundreds of others were hurt when the crowd began to press towards the stage during his performance. Lawyers representing more than 200 people claiming they were injured in the stampede were filing another 90 lawsuits against the performers and promoters of the event. There were about 50,000 people at the festival. Investigators are reviewing videos from the scene to explore the causes of the surge and what had prevented people from being able to escape. That is all we have for you on AWANI tonight. Get the latest news update on COVID-19 and COVID-19 vaccines from astroawani.com and the Astro AWANI app. I'm Farhana Sheikh. We'll see you again.